How to navigate in Photoshop. In most cases, PC and Mac are the same. You've got all the same menus along here. You've got this difference, Photoshop, and you've got About. You've also got Settings, the Preferences. You can find that in the Edit menu on the PC. Also, you can just do Command or Control K, and that brings up the preferences as well. Now you've got File. So File, you've got New, you've got Open, and you've got Browse. All those options of inputting files, opening files. You've also got the Close and Close All next. And also you've got Save As. Save As, you're really saving it to various Photoshop formats, PSD, etc. But you've got here, Save a Copy, much the same, but you can save it to a different location. You've got Invite to Edit. That's really great if you've got like a team you're working with, so people can put comments and various things and edit. I'm not going to go into that. You've also got Export, so you can export to other formats. You've got PNG, JPEGs, you've got loads of different formats. You can SVG, and you also can see a long list of export for Aero. You've got layers to files and so on. All of the exports that are not really saving to a PSD can be found there, such as Paths to Illustrator and Render Video. You've also got Generate in this section as well, and this is Image Assets. This is great for setting up a process that can be run in the background that will generate, when you do changes, it will just continuously update it. Great for like web designs and all that sort of thing. You've also got Search. Not certain why that's stuck there, but still search Adobe stock. That's all the photos that Adobe have got, so you can go and search them. They love putting that. That's quite a few places. Place Embedded. Very similar to the Open, but in the sense of opening the file, you won't get an actual document for it. All it comes as a layer. So it becomes a layer, you can just bring it in, and you can also embed it so it's part of the document, or you can go for Place Linked, which means it's separate, it's just a file. So any changes that happen to that file are linked and will be reflected there in the document. You also got automation as well, so you've got all the processes for, again, input and output. So you've got batch processing, it runs through loads of files, presentations, cropping, all those things, but that's for lots of files. So it's a batch processing, automating. You've also got scripts, which is really great for creating loads of very unusual effects that you can apply to any number of images, or just applying to a single image. So it will run through a certain, like an action, but it's a script. It's in JavaScript or VB script or Apple script. You've also got import, and you can import various things, videos and that sort of stuff. Import from iPhone, I've never done that, but you've got take photos, scan, etc. Also, you've got the file info, which has got a lovely selection. I'll just click there, and you can see you've got document title, all those things. You probably will leave that alone, but you can always set up various copyrights, etc. So you've got file, and also you've got version history. One of the most useful features in Photoshop. Really great way of, if you're doing work, you can have a single file where all the changes are recorded. All the changes to your saving of the document, I should say. Not all the edits. Also, you've got printing here as well. So you've got printing and print one copy, a very quick print. Then you've got edit. So edits, you've got all your cut and copy and paste, all those options there. And also lots of other things that really don't seem to fit anywhere else. But you've got edit, such as transforms and sky replacement and things, which sort of edit, but basically do many of the filter functions as well. Sometimes that's the case in quite a lot of applications where you've got one, you think, why is it there? Why is it not in another section? You've got search. This is useful if you don't particularly know where something is. So you can go search and it'll bring up this panel, and you can find loads of tutorials, loads of great tutorials, browse for various things. You can type in things, so you might think, oh, I vaguely remember it was image menu and it was something, and it will bring up like last make. There's all these options. So you've got lots of anything, functions, scripts, all that sort of stuff can be accessed very quickly here. It's a very useful feature. Weirdly, it's called Discover here, but in the actual menu, you can see it says search. Very confusing. You also check the spelling. So if you've got some text, you can also find and replace text, which is very handy as well. If you've got a very large, complicated document, this is probably more, I think, for something like InDesign and Illustrator, but still it's there. And also you've got fill. Now fill, great function that just basically fills the current document or layer, and we'll fill it with a pattern or with white and black or colour, anything like that. So you can do that, but you can of course do it also from here as well. You've also got to notice that some of these options are not available. Not everything is available. So if you haven't got anything in the pasteboard, you can't obviously copy, you can't paste. So they're obviously greyed out. Also, you notice at the top, you've got the undo and redo, as well as toggle last and fade. Again, if you haven't done anything, then nothing will be there. Let's just do something quickly. So let's just quickly create something, edit, and you can then see fade. That becomes available. And that happens a lot with lots of these menu commands. You'll notice you think, oh, there's nothing there, nothing's happening. Just completely, I can't access it. And it's only if it's actually relevant will it be available. I find that slightly confusing sometimes. I think really it should be available anyway, but still, that's the way it's done. So again, if you create a selection, say, you can go edit and copy, and then you can edit and paste. So you can see now, and you've got other options like paste special. Again, these are all edit functions. So paste in something, paste into, paste outside, and so on. Select and deselect. Edit and stroke and content aware fill, again, all require actually something to be there. Perspective warp, you've got some transforms. You've got puppet warp, transforms, free transform, transform. You've got like scaling, rotation, those sort of things. All again, edit sort of function. You're editing the document. So you're editing the document. And likewise, auto align and auto blend. Very useful functions. Again, multiple documents, very useful, or layers. Also, sky replacement. That's a really great feature. I think should be in the filter menu, but it's stuck away in the edit. Of course, because the filters do edit. They apply and edit as much as anything. Quite a lot of functions edit. So sky replacement is tucked away there. You can also define the brush preset. So if you create a brush design, anything, you can define it. Also, you've got things like purges, which are really good. So you can purge a clip. If you suddenly think, oh, things are going slow on your system, you think, oh, I haven't purged this and that. All histories, really quite good, just to quickly clear a lot of things. Sometimes it resolves an issue, sometimes it doesn't. So it's one of those things that is handy. Video cache, you might find that you've got working on and you want to purge that. You've also got here presets. Presets manager, not so useful as it used to be, because now its presets are done in a slightly different way. I think that functionality is a bit sort of defunct. You still can do it. You can still bring this up. It's got various things, and you can see what's happened. There's very little in it now. Contours and tools. So you've got all the various. Now this is a quite useful thing. Whenever you select any tools, you've got all these various options, and you can see these in the control bar along here. But that's what the preset manager. It did have a lot more functionality years ago. Edit. And you've got other ones. I've never done that. Remote connections, I'm not even going to do it. But you've also got other colour settings, keyboard shortcuts, menus and toolbars. So you can modify the application in so many different ways. So you can always, if you want to, you can always go to the menu and you see you've got here all the menu ones. You've got their application. You can expand that and you can see all the things. You've got shortcuts, whether they're visible. So you may have a different set display. So if someone's changed something, say you turn around and say, I don't want the new to be visible. It'd be very odd to do that one. But still, you could click that and make it so it's not visible. And that, obviously at this point it doesn't go. But as soon as you click OK, you suddenly find you can't see your new. So sometimes this might clear things. If something's not appearing, it's a very useful place to come and just quickly look and make certain it is visible. And you can also change the colour, which is really handy. So you might turn around and say, I want blue there. So you can say new and blue. Click OK, and you go there, and now you've got it blue. I'm not certain why I'd want that, but that's a feature. However, edit, and you've got other ones. Start diction. That's a Mac feature, I think. Image. Now this is really useful. You've got like modes, so you've got different modes. Generally, most documents are probably RGB, CMYK, but you've also got lab, multi-channel, and you can go between them. So you can go here, and you can select that, and it will change the current mode to that. Also, you've got adjustments. So you've got adjustments. This is all the color features, sort of like a filter. It isn't a filter, but its adjustment modifies the image. So you've got vibrance, hue and saturation, you've got a number of black and white. So you can just turn it into black and white, click OK. Also undo. Again, image, and then you've got auto tone, contrast, colour. Great quick result. Sometimes it's useful, sometimes you might find you might manually want to change it, but it's a quick way of just applying just a quick change. Image size. Again, some of these maybe should be in the edit menu, but image size is here and canvas size. So you've got image size, it just brings up a panel and you can tweak the size of the document. Make it 1000 by 1000 or 2000 by 500 or something. So cancel that. Also, you can change the canvas size. That just adds or subtracts from the existing canvas, which is quite nice. You might want that. You might. Personally, I just use the crop tool, but you can do canvas size there. Image rotation, you can rotate things. Trim, again, sort of same as the crop functionality. And you've got duplicate, so you can duplicate this image and it will create a new document. Apply image, it's got a lot of great functionality, near enough as powerful as any filters. Really, you can create vast amounts of designs and changes and tweaks to any image using this apply image. Also, calculations, very similar, but this is using channels. You've got here channels, you've got the red, green, blue, and again, you can create a vast number of different designs from your existing channels. And you've got here, it creates a new channel, new selection. Very useful bits of functionality. Image, and you've got some other ones here for variables, apply data sets. You've got, I'm not going to go into that, trap, analysis and things. So you can actually set up measurement scale. There's a lot of other things that just sort of tucked away in that image menu. Layer, new. You've got all the options for layers. Photoshop works basically on layers. So this is a very useful section. So you've got layer, layer from background. So you create a new layer. On the key panel here, this one, layers. So anything you do here, so let's just go and do it, layer and new layer, and click OK. And you can see there, you've got a new layer. And then you can work on that layer. You can apply gradients to it, brush strokes, set shapes to it, and much, much more. You've also got here layer. You can duplicate layers. You can, now this one, copy CSS, copy SVG, more useful for other applications. But I'm just going to here, delete layers. You can delete them. You can also delete hidden layers. I don't think I've ever done that. Quick export as PNG. Instead of going and trying messing around with layers, you can just simply select a layer and you can export that layer, that sole layer. Export as, and you can save the format again. You get this panel here and it will come up with options there. Now, if I go to this one and I go to layer and I can say export as, and it will then generate that and you can see that layer. That's all it's doing, exporting that layer. Cancel. So all the layer functionalities here. You can also modify the layer with layer styles. You can also rename the layer. You can also go to new fill layer. That creates a new layer. Perhaps it should be up there actually, to be honest, new, but however, it has got a separate section, new fill layer. And you can do solid color gradient and patterns. Also, you've got adjustment layers, very similar to the image menu. You've got adjustments. So again, you can do black and white, and this creates a layer, exact same as before, but it's above the existing one there. If it's selected there, so if I go to layer and new adjustment layer, say levels, just creates it, click OK, and you can see now I've got that generated layer just there in the properties. You can set those up. So that's the layer menu. You've got all the functionality, like range things. You can range layers up or down. You can group layers. You've also got combine shapes. If you've got shapes, you can combine them using this menu. Also, you can line them. So if they're all different higgly-piggly across the screen, different layers, you can select them and then align them. You can distribute them all from this. Lock layers, that's another option. And merge down, so you can flatten everything. So merge down, merge visible, and flatten image. Again, all sort of merging functionality, slightly different, each of them. But that's the layer things, all connected with layers. Then the next one's type. You've got here, the first option is a weird one, more from Adobe Fonts. You can go and get some more fonts if you want. So that's a really nice feature. Lots and lots of fonts available. You can click that and select another load of fonts. Now this one's great because it's sort of match. It should be really in the window section, but you've got here panels. You've got character panel, paragraph. They're all great for, so if I select that one, say character panel, the character panel will pop up. Now, again, I always think it should be down here, but you can see exactly, there it is, character panel. Should be under a type section down here, personally. I don't know why it's over here as well. Just seems to be an odd place. But you've got anti-aliasing, you've got open type, various options, matching fonts, so you can check your font to find if it's like something else. So if I select match font, and you can select an area, and it will determine from various sources what that font is. I use it occasionally. It does seem to get reasonable responses. So again, type, you've got other options. Of course, it does require if you've got some type. So let's just select some type, create some type, click OK. And then, of course, you've got more options. So you can rasterize it. You can convert it to paragraph text and so on. You can also warp it. All these options are in the type menu, anything here. And also you've got styles that you can apply to type as well. It's very useful. So very quick shortcut. You've got a load of styles that you can then say, oh, I want it applied to that. And you can make them all the same, exactly identical. Next one, selection. So you've got select. Again, requires something obviously to be selected or not. So if I go here, let's just go layer and flatten that. And then it's just create selection. Here's the selection to marquees, marquee tools. I always wondered why they're still called that. That's obviously what their name they were, but they are really a rectangular selection tool. But it's always called marquee tool, except it's called select here just to confuse. But select is all the select menu associated stuff. So you've got here select all, that selects the entire document or layer. Deselect, you've got there, deselect, just deselects what you've got. If you've got a selection, if you haven't, it will be. And also you've got invert. So at the moment, the selection is inside. So you can select obviously that blue and the pink and the green selected. If I inverse, it selects the rest of it, the rest of the document, lorem ipsum, etc. Select. And again, you've got various options here for layers, focus areas, subject, really nice features. So if you've got, say, an image of a face or a person in a photo, or something very distinct, a dog or a house, a lamp or something, that is very handy for quickly doing a selection. And also you've got things like focus area, sky, so it will try and select sky. Most cases, it does work reasonably well. Select a mask, you've got various masking options. Also, you can modify the selection. So you can modify the border, you can smooth them, you can feather them, you can contract it, make it smaller. You also can transform it, you can grow it. So there's a lot of different options you've got for selection. So you can just resize that selection you see there. Does much the same as a normal transform, rotate, etc. So select, and also you can save them and load selections. So you can, if you've got a great selection, you think that's a great selection, I can save it and I can bring it back. Now you've got these 3D features. You'll notice this. Now a lot of the 3D functionality has been removed from Photoshop. In fact, I don't even know why they've still got the 3D. Some of it still works, but it's quite, a lot of this stuff is all seems to have disappeared now. So it's not available. However, select and deselect. The key probably if you're going to be using effects, want to apply effects, is this one, the filter menu. So filter menu, you've got here neural filters. This is a new feature, fairly new feature. It's got great AI options. I think some of them are really great. It's got a whole load of functionality which they keep adding. So if you click it, brings up a panel over here. You can see you've got these ones like landscape, mixer, style transfer, load of great functionality. Please check out my other videos on that. Let's just cancel. So filter, and you've got this one, filter gallery. Filter gallery is lots of the very old filters. They're great. There's nothing wrong with it. They were actually part of a set of plugins that you could buy years and years and years ago, but have been incorporated into Photoshop. And they're just stuck in a gallery. And you've got various embossing ones, you've got various grain ones, stylized, distortions, sketches, and so on. They're okay. But you can, of course, combine them. And that's the key thing with all these filters, that they really are best combined. Not just applied just in one filter effect. Just work out combinations of different filters to create all kinds of amazing designs. Then you go down here. You've got various ones for cameras, adaptive wide, camera raw filter if you've got raw images. But you can use this anytime. And if you want a lot of great color functionality, this is one not to avoid. So camera raw filter, really useful. Just click it, and then you've got literally tons of functionality to modify tint, temperature, exposure, contrast, and so on. It's all tucked away, weirdly, in that single filter. Yes. So you've got that. So it definitely is not one to ignore, because if you want color features, that is a great feature. Lens correction, you can modify images in warping and slight distortion. Liquify, again, a sort of warping effect. Really quite powerful. Vanishing point, very useful as well. So vanishing point, it comes up with and you can set different perspectives on those sort of things. That's what that is. Cancel. They all have their same sort of style of dialogue as well. You've got here filter and go down, and now you've got these ones. Some of these may or may not be here at some point. Bump map, it does seem to be, if their 3D features seem to be getting relegated. I just wonder how long they will last. Blur, and these ones, but really the functionality, if I just select that, it might come up. No, they are. Features are being discontinued. Learn more, click OK. So it doesn't even do anything. It comes up, and then it comes up with a panel. It actually, I think it even comes up with a fault actually on my version. So filter, and you've got other ones. Blur, blur. Now blur has got a lot of Gaussian blurs. You've got lens blurs, motion blur, really powerful one. Blur gallery is a sort of newer blurring feature, and it's got some great, which we can build up and combine, create lots of amazing blurring effects using this, and definitely should not be ignored, even though it's slightly odd the way it said blur gallery. Really should probably be up in this section. Anyway, distort, you've got all the distortion ones. You've got displace, pinch, so you can distort the image. Obviously you can pinch it, you can ripple it, make different ripples. There is not a huge amount actually compared with some applications. This is probably the most powerful one, wave. I love the wave one. It's got a great lot of functionality. Preview is rubbish. So you go in here, wave. It's very tiny. It's not even previewed there. There's no preview on the screen. Some of them do have that, some don't. So you go there, filter. You've also got some of these ones like render. These are all very powerful ones. You've got here flame. You've got picture frame, tree. Some of them you need to set up various things like a path before you can use them. So that's why they're tucked away. You've got cloud. These ones seem to be just very not much at all, but they are very powerful features. Difference cloud, you can create all kinds of pattern designs using that. Fibers likewise. Lens flare, it's okay, but you probably find that there's applications, plugins that are much better for creating lens flares. And lighting effects, I'm not really keen on that one. It's okay. Lots of people seem to have a bit of a few moans about that one. I mean, it's fine. Create some interesting gradient designs or imagery, I think, but still not one that I'm... But also, you've got here, you've got sharpen. So instead of blurring, you've got sharpen more, sharpen edges, etc. You've got stylize. Oil paint, probably one of the most powerful filters. I love that. There's not that much when it comes to painting or great sort of tools to actually create great paint effects in Photoshop. Oil paint is probably about it. But if you combine it with these other ones, you can create a lot of great designs. Video, unless you're using video, I suspect an NTS colour. I have never used those. And others, these ones, great. Custom is terrible. Very worst filter you could ever use. It's got tons and tons of options here, but very little help to actually say what you can do with it. Filter, other, these are really good, but again, these should be really probably in the blurring features or adding in the render, I think even sometimes. I think they're tucked away. Offset is very useful for patterns, but not so useful now as you've got a pattern preview option in Photoshop. 3D, a lot of this functionality is going, as it said, discontinued. So that menu at some point, who knows, might go, but it doesn't do much. Sometimes it works, sometimes you'll find errors in it. View. Now view is really useful. It's got all the various things like the zoom in, zoom out, fit layer on the screen, 100%, 200%, all those sorts of viewing things. Anything that's related to viewing. You've got here screen mode, so you can set it up with a menu bar, full screen mode, so you don't have any of the clutter. You can do all those sort of things. There's a lot of great stuff in the view menu. Also, you've got show. So you've got here layer edges, grids, you can show certain things, you can remove them. So smart guides, if you don't want smart guides, which pop up every once in a while, telling you certain objects are at 90 degrees or something. If you don't want that, you don't have to have it. You might find them getting in the way, so you can turn them all off by smart guides. You've also got all options here. 3D, again, I suspect a lot of that functionality will go. And also you've got show all. So I guess it just puts them all to on or show none. And also other options down there. You've also got rulers, which you can set rulers very quick, and you can see the rulers around here. So that's what view does. It's a very handy menu for anything that you want to view, like change the actual interface. More interface than anything else, interface commands. And you've also got guides, which are great for setting up. You've got guide layouts, new guides, and lock slices. That's more for web design. I must admit, I haven't used that for a long time. Plugins. Now plugins, if you've got no plugins, you've no intention of buying any plugins, because there's a browse, you can see browse for plugins. So you can browse for plugins. I've got one, Clockwork, which works very well. Circle Arranger and Grid Creator. Well, the Circle Arranger works very well anyway. So there's that. Also, you've got Window. And this is really useful menu. You've got all the options here. Tile all vertical. So if you've got multiple images, if you've only got just one image, you're just working on one image, then it's probably not much use having 3 up vertical or 3 up stacked or 4 up. Consolidate all to tabs. If you're using one document only, editing one file. But if you're editing 20 files and you want to tile them all, this is a great way of doing it. You can quickly do it using these options. And you can also see you can also tile or float in window. So instead of having it like it is at the moment, so you can say float in window, and then it suddenly floats in the window. So there's some options there. So that's that. That's all the various arrange, minimize, bring to front. Does much the same as the standard functionality for minimize. Also, you've got workspace. So you might want to set up different workspaces. I'm not going to change this now because I've got it just set to essential. That's the default. But you can set up one for 3D or motion or painting or video, etc. Anything you're working on in a particular way that you want it to be useful for yourself because you've set it up. And you can also set up your own one. So you can create a new workspace. So if you create lots of things in particular places, say you've got various things like the characters, you use a lot of text, doing a lot of text editing, and you want to quickly access that, then you can set it up using this. Just set up a new workspace with text. And all the text functionality can be added to that so it quickly appears. You can also got here keyboard shortcuts and menus. An option there. Though there's all that functionality down there. You can set up all those shortcuts, menus, things down there as well. So there's quite often in Photoshop you will find that a lot of the functionality is in different places, so which slightly confuses. So window, and you've got all the panels. Now these are the panels. These are the panels, the version history. So if it's currently displayed, you can see there. If it's not currently totally displayed, so you can see character there. There's character. Notice there is no tick mark against that. Now 3D is fully displayed. So you can see 3D has got a little tick mark. Layers fully displayed. Version history fully displayed. But anything that's hidden. So if I just go over here, character, just move that away. Window. Now character is displayed. So it doesn't mean anything. When it just means when hasn't got a tick or whatever, doesn't mean it's actually visible. Which I find slightly confusing, I must admit. I've always felt that if it's got a tick, it means it's actually there somewhere. So if you drag this over, so you can drag and combine these things, you can always go, so if you've got like a very cluttered screen, you can always drag it over there and you can say, oh, character, put it there. And now you see layers is hidden. So if I go to window, layers is no longer, what's now? I think it should have a different marker. It's still available, but it's not marked, so you don't know that it's there. You could spend ages looking for it, and it's not. It's actually already there. But if you go, say, layers now, if you click there, it will display it, and now it's window and layers. So you can go all the way down, and also you've got options here for application, frame, options, and tools. So if you deselect that, you'll notice tools disappear. That's all that does. So tools. And at the bottom, you'll notice there's the thing that says untitled. That's the current document you're working on. So if you've got 50 documents, you might have 50 documents open. The current one that you've got at the front is the one that will be marked as ticked and the one you're actively working on. And then you've got help. And you can search, so you can turn around and say search, let's go for type. And it will come up with, this is a great place. If you want to, you think, oh, where is that command? I know it's called load default or something. You can just simply go to here and you can load default and then you go down. And as you see, as you would type, go down and it will point it to that place. So you go settings there and you can click that and it will bring up it as well. You don't even have to go to it. So it will bring that settings up for that. So the help with this little option here, very useful for just typing anything. And also you've got help topics as well, help on type and so on. And also you've got other options here. So let's just go clear that out. You've got Photoshop help, you've got hands-on tutorials, what's new, or with system info and obviously various things. Probably you're never going to leave unless there's an issue with your machine or Photoshop. And obviously you think, oh, I wonder what's happening with the system. So you can go system info, click on that, and it will come up and tell you that you've got 8 megs or whatever, or memory and loads of number of launches, 322. I've launched Photoshop since I got this machine, and since it's number of launches, 322. That's quite a few times. And you can copy it as well. And you can see the operating system, etc. And also you can sign out. There's obviously my there and latest updates for Photoshop. And that is a run through the menu. Now, that is the menus for these. You can also find the right side. And I'm not going to go through all of them because but every panel, most of them, have got these right side menus. And they're exactly the same. So you can go here and you can say new path. You've got all these other ones. You can duplicate, delete path, make work path, make selection. So there's a lot of functionality, clipping paths, but it requires obviously something there. So layer, you can go to select this layer, right click, and you've got options here for new layer. A lot of it matches the layer menu. So if you go to the layer menu, you'll find things like this new artboard. So you can set it up, that new artboard from a layer. So it creates an artboard based on that layer, or convert to things. So a lot of functionality, much the same. Again, window. So if I go to timeline, say, you've got timeline, again, that's got also a right side menu, and you've got loop playback, etc. Now that's probably one of the more unique ones. So you can create videos, really useful, or GIF file, animated GIF files. And that, I think, is a reasonable, hopefully useful run through of some of the functionality of the navigation of Photoshop. If you've got any questions, please let me know. Are there anything that you didn't understand in terms of all the various menus, things that you think, oh, what does that feature do? Please let me know in the comments. It's always great to hear from you, and hope you found this of interest. Bye.